When we moved to Indiana, everybody gave us corn. It was hot, it was summertime, and corn was in season. And that's what people do in Indiana, is they give you stuff when you move in, when you're brand new. They bring you either something they baked, or they bring you flowers, or they bring you a plant, or they bring you whatever they've grown in their yard, whatever is in season. And so since we got there at the end of July, we got a lot of corn. In fact, we got so much corn that we couldn't possibly eat it all. Corn was everywhere. They would bring in wagons from the fields, and they would park the wagons in various parking lots, Pizza Hut, Burger King, CVS, and people would go to their favorite wagon and they would buy corn. Some days the wagon would say, "No corn today," because maybe they'd sold out or they didn't harvest any that day. So what was I going to do with all of this corn? Well, my friend showed me what I should do. She said, you boil the corn just for a few minutes, and then you put it in cold water. Then you cut the kernels off the cob, and you put them in a Ziploc bag. You put a date on the outside of the bag, and you throw it in your freezer. And so I did that with the many ears of corn that I had received. And we had several bags of corn in our freezer, which was really nice because in the winter time we could eat it. And I remember I thought we'd eaten all of the corn. But there was this one day deep in winter, and I was looking for something in the freezer, and I reached into the back corner and I pulled out a bag of that corn. I thought we'd eaten it all. I was so excited. And so I brought it into the house, and I showed my husband, look, corn. And so we cooked it up, and I remember tasting that first bite of corn, and it tasted so sweet and fresh, just like I remembered it from summer. People did this in the Midwest. If you had a garden or you were a farmer and you had all of this extra harvest of vegetables, you would either freeze it or you would can it so that you could go in the dead of winter into the basement or the garage, and you open the big box freezer and you pull out some of those vegetables, or you pull it off the shelf, a bottle or jar of green beans or something like that. It was awesome. This is what I think of when I think about Scripture. I think about Scripture, whether we study it by ourselves or we study it with people or we listen to a teacher, we meditate on it, we memorize it, or hopefully all of those things that we do when we interact with Scripture. We put it away inside of us, and it changes us and transforms us. But not only that, it's hidden away for a time when we need it again. A time where we're struggling, or a time we might have a question, or we might have an insight, and that scripture that we studied or that scripture that we memorized comes back at just the right moment. And it helps us and feeds us again. We see this all over Scripture. We see the Scripture that says, "Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." There's Psalm 1, which says, "Blessed is the one whose heart is meditating on Scripture day and night. They're like a tree planted by the stream." There's Mary, who would ponder what was going on with her son Jesus. The stuff that we study, and she was living, but she would ponder it and put it away in her heart, and later on it would come to have meaning. And so that's the importance of Scripture. It's like finding that bag of corn in the back corner of the freezer, and you pull it out and you cook it, and it tastes like summer.